Of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Good evening. Mr. Belair, would you like to introduce our guest?
I would, thank you.
Speak loudly.
Well, good evening, everyone. It's great to have really every age represented, and if you don't realize that, I'm sure you got a chance to hear it a little bit. So, welcome, and we're glad to have our younger folk joining this meeting tonight. I'd like to recognize Pat Fedor, representing our administrative group, Linda Braley, here tonight, representing our Federation of Classroom Teachers. Also this evening we have Lisa Berry, who is a candidate for the Board of Education, so welcome. I think you'll enjoy the show. Also, Janet Smith is a member of our RTM. Welcome, Janet. Timing was perfect. So come on in and have a seat. We also have with us this evening Dr. Eileen Howley, who is the Executive Director of LEARN, Principal Kathy Suprin. We also have Tricia Barron, who is the Assistant Principal, and they're on the agenda a little bit later. I don't see any members of the press here as yet, but they'll probably arrive just as I'm about to leave, and they're going to ask me to sit and have a debrief with them after the meeting. So, but I have to let them know there's a Red Sox game tonight. So anyway, we have three presentations to begin tonight's meeting, and I'm really excited about all of the presentations, but in particular with our first presentation this evening. Many of you recall we had students as well as members of our staff visit China last spring, and then we had the opportunity just a couple of weeks ago to host 15 students and 2 members of the faculty from Weihai. And tonight we have 3 of our students who visited China last spring. We have Gina, we have Bella, as well as Jason, and welcome. And they're going to share a little bit about the experience, because they had the opportunity to do the 360, to visit and then have students come here and visit. And we just had a great experience, and you can see some of the wonderful gifts that our guests left behind. And on the table, each board member has a gift from our friends and partners from China, so please enjoy those. So, you're on. Jason, why don't you kick it off?
Well, I remember, so when I went to China, I found it very enjoyable to see the welcome into the Chinese students, and they treated me with respect, they treated me nicely and kindly, and I found it really exciting and enjoyable when they went over, and I was able to show them the American culture. Stella. You want me to start from when we went to China? Okay. It was really interesting to visit a place like China. It's so incredibly different from here, and it was really interesting to just be immersed in that kind of culture for a while, and to make an attempt to learn the language. It's getting difficult. But it was a lot of fun for them to come back here too. I don't even know how to describe it. All of them were so happy to be here, and it was great to have them and understand more about how they lived in China that we hadn't gotten a chance to grasp when we stayed over there.
They were so appreciative, weren't they? I mean, that's what I heard the students throughout our high school say nonstop, how appreciative, how calm, how wonderful.
They're very gracious people. So what I found was that that the experience for both us and them was a mind-broadening experience. When we were in China, we tried many things that were new to us, like all of the local cuisine, including boiled smelly fish and evident pepper. laughing. But also that I think it's good for students to have met the Chinese students because a lot of Americans still have residual prejudices and misconceptions about China based on some older history, and it was refreshing for them to actually meet people from almost the other side of the world and see how they were different and how they were a lot alike. And I think it was a beneficiary experience for both schools involved.
Some of the opportunities that our guests had, visited the Seaport, had a great dance with all of you, bowling. Yeah. They visited colleges. They started the trip with visiting Harvard up in Boston. They visited Quinnipiac, and really had a great opportunity attending classes as well and after-school activities.
If I may just say to the Board of Education, is so very proud of the way the students received the students from China and the interaction. And I can tell you, even though our reporter isn't here, Jane, she said something I thought was quite fitting when, at the point where all the students were dancing, she said, it doesn't matter what culture you're from or where you're from. When the students get out on that dance floor, they speak their own language, and everyone got along just famously. And if I may just take a point of personal privilege tonight, I know some very dear friends of mine are here this evening, Norm Crawford and Judy Crawford, and I know their granddaughter was one of the students that went to China. And we're just so proud of all of our students and the reception and of our teachers and Dr. Hunt and Jan for all their very good work over the years. And of course our administration for encouraging this. This goes along with some of the goals that the board has established. So we're more than delighted, and I think it's just been a wonderful experience for both sides of this side and in China. So we're very, very pleased. Thank you.
And I know you wanted to recognize.
Yes. We'd like to offer this small token of certificate of appreciation to Dr. Hunt, Peter Hunt, and to our guidance counselor. And please help me say your name properly, Hunt. I'm trying to do a little Chinese, but I'm still learning. Yan Chen.
Yes.
And so I'd like to present these to you. Thank you.
This would not have been possible without the yeoman's effort of these two members of our staff. They were absolutely
Thank you for your tremendous Thank you very much. Thank you.
Kathleen, let's do picture three. Andre, take a picture. No.
Go ahead.
I just want to say one quick thing. The state consultant from the Department of Education that kicked this whole exchange thing off 8 years ago told us when we had our great reception in China in 2005, don't try to out-host the Chinese. We didn't try to out-host them, but we did a pretty good job. And we couldn't have done that without Mr. Belair, Mr. Hauser. Thank you guys very, very much.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
I had also shared at the last board meeting the gift from the Rotary of $500 to help offset the cost. So on Monday I was able to join Rotary and thank them very much because it allowed us to do a couple of those little extra things. And I just want the board to know that you received a greeting and an invitation. I actually did a little translation. So the abridged version is, you're invited to come to China. So I know that they wouldn't get on the bus until I actually promised that, yeah, I think I can make it next spring. So it was just great to watch our kids, the connection and the attachment, and your families that really welcomed them in. It was a great moment, I think, for Waterford. So the students, you guys were great. So thank you very much, and thanks for coming tonight.
Thank you. Before we go on to the next presentation, are we finished? before we go on, and I know Mr. Belair was anxious to talk about our Chinese exchange. We didn't ask if there are any comments from our guests this evening.
yes,
That's all right. If there are any comments anyone would like to make, this is the time. If not, that's fine. We can move to our next presentation.
So our next presentation is really an update on the Friendship School, and with us tonight are both Kathy Schufrin as well as the assistant principal here this evening, Tricia. And they're going to give us an update on our connection and our partnership with the Friendship School. Thank you and welcome.
Welcome.
Hello, everybody. This is Tricia Barron, the assistant principal, and as Blair said, I'm Kathy Schufrin, principal of the Friendship School. And these are my little friends and their parents and their siblings who have come to hear a special presentation about their school, but also to see what it's like to be at a Board of Education meeting. And as you look at the parents that are there with their children, these will be the future board members, both here and in New London. So these are citizens that take a very important role in our school and give their time as you do. Thank you for welcoming us here tonight. We have a picture of the Friendship School, which is part of your campus, your educational campus right here in the center of town, and it is a beautiful addition to the schools in Waterbury and New London. And that's a picture from 2005 when the school first opened. And I thought, well, we really should update it because the grounds are beautiful now, but it does kind of bring us back to that year, 2005. Many of you were in the audience the day that we opened the school with the smelly fertilizer things that happened that day. But even before 2005, and even before that, the plans were being made for the school. And I know that some of you in the audience were on those committees that made those plans. 10 years in the planning, and we've been 9 years in the building. So really, when you think about it, the idea of the Friendship School has been there for a long time. And the idea of the Friendship School is really expressed very well in our mission, which was written in those early 10 years of planning. We are mixed up two communities that are the same in many ways, but different in many ways. And so we're together with New London and Waterford so that our children can be educated in a diverse learning environment. We just heard about the Chinese. Same thing happening here in Waterford. We're establishing and supporting a diverse learning environment for our children so they grow up knowing that the world is that way. Family involvement is a big part of our school, and families here are testament to that. And high expectations for our children's learning, just like in the Waterford schools and in the London schools, we have high expectations for how our children will learn and what they will learn. And it's also a full-day option. When the school first opened in 2005, we met the needs of the larger public schools, which did not have full-day kindergarten or full-day special education for their children. So we met that need in a very significant way. And then little by little, the schools here became full-day kindergarten. So we go way back to when there wasn't that. And
I'll tell you a little about what is Friendship School. Like Kathy Schufrin said, we're a collaborative effort between Waterford Public Schools and New London Public Schools, and we're administered by Learn. We're a magnet school for 3, 4, and 5-year-olds. We enroll 503 lottery students. And we do have a pre-K option that you can bypass the lottery if you are a special needs student and you come to the girls' school.
we'll talk a little bit more about that later. But it won't be long. How this day. Our governing board meets every other month to make big decisions about the school, and we recognize a lot of names on that list. So we just want to acknowledge the work that you do to support the school. Members of your board and members of the New London board are on our governing board, as well as the 3 superintendents, Mr. Blair, Dr. Fisher, and Dr. Howley, who you met earlier, who's our superintendent. And our other boards that does a lot with the school, they're all here tonight, which I think is great. That their names, even though it's late.
But Marcia Swan is our president of our PTA, which we call the Friends and Family Organization, and Stephanie Pope and Amanda Pierce are our co-vice president. Kevin Gerard is our treasurer, and of course in parentheses are their children, some of their children, their older siblings are, Amy, I didn't have the name of their sorry, honey, but you were a former student, and we do appreciate you and Danny being here. Three siblings, the Gerards, Jody and Kevin, who are dedicated board members, and Stacey Rivard with Isaiah. Stacey's our secretary. All Prentice School students and important people to us. This is what they do, which is not unlike all the other schools, but they're just starting out, so you're going to see them in your schools, on the boards, in your schools, and you know how it is, Jody, the same people always show up year after year after year. I told Marcia that today, and she kind of groaned. But this is what our family organization does for us. People are curious about our enrollment. So we have 3-year-olds, 4-year-olds, and kindergartners, and we have special ed students. So in parentheses are the special ed students. We have 20% of our student body is made up of students with special needs. That's a significant number. And the services we provide there are also significant. Total, as of this moment, is 513. That's the time we made this slide, was 514 children. So if you ever could imagine being in a building with 514 3, 4, and 5-year-olds, it's interesting. There's never a dull moment there. But when you walk in the building, you don't get the sense that there are 500 3, 4, and 5-year-olds there. It's a calm and lovely place where good things happen.
And I'll tell you a little bit about the lottery now. We advertise through the month of November through April. We have our application period. We start the day after New Year's, January 2nd, 3rd. You can start to come fill an application out. And we usually end around the end of March. We usually give about 10 tours through January and March. We have evening tours and daily tours that Dr. Sigmund and myself give. Our lottery is scheduled for early April, and parents are usually notified end of April, beginning of May. Our names, they're numbered, they're on the lottery list by age and the different communities. Our enrollment, as you saw by the numbers before, they're pretty balanced from communities of New London and Waterford. And our enrollment continues all the way through October 1st. Some parents get a little discouraged if they don't get in the first time, but we always say, don't worry, you could get a phone call through October 1st. And our birth-free students, they can enter throughout the year if they are identified with special needs. So we get students October 1st, we get students May 20th. And they are welcomed into the classroom, and by 3rd, 4th day, you wouldn't know they were there.
We do have a pretty balanced population from the two communities, and that's a requirement. But we have more applicants from New London, so there ends up being a bit of a waiting list for New London children by the time we're finished with our enrollment. But for the past 3 years or so, every Waterford applicant has, we've finished our waiting list from Waterford because we have fewer applicants, so we're able to do that.
Some of our highlights, we do offer full-day kindergarten with a rigorous academic and social development. We have our certified staff, preschool teachers, kindergarten teachers. They are all genetically certified teaching staff. We do have a population of 20% education students, and they all are inclusive in each classroom. And again, you walk into a classroom and you wouldn't even know.
Nope. We have ESL services, and currently this year we have 63 students that are getting the ESL support. We have a beautiful certified nature explorer outdoor classroom. And if you ever do come and visit, it is one of our highlights. I believe we're one of 2 or 3 in the state that have that certification, and the children that can go outside. The teachers have lesson plans that go with the outdoor classroom, and they're learning, and they think they're playing with children. This is just our website. Please visit it. It's updated probably daily. It's a great website. And diversity is always celebrated in our school and values. And we are NEAC accredited.
This is unusual for an elementary school. High school usually become NEAC accredited, where you know how that goes. And it's a process and requires you to study the school and look at it critically and make improvements. And then you have 10 years to accomplish all the recommendations, any of the recommendations. It shouldn't be all of them, but any of the recommendations that are, I'm sure you've been through that process with the high school report. These are just a few facts about the Waterford children and how they do. Last year's data shows us that 80% of the Waterford children who attended elementary school for 3 years either met or exceeded the end of the year goal for reading, which is a test we did with DRA, and you get the same assessment for DRA level 4. We always analyze our data to look at it different ways. Who's in the data? What are the other things that affect outcomes? And one of the things we discovered last year when we were looking at our outcomes was that the children who almost made their goals at the end of the year have poor attendance. So we're really focusing on attendance this year as a factor. It makes so much sense to not in the chair. We have an attendance committee of teachers this year, and we're going to celebrate good attendance and put a lot of effort into getting everybody there as much as possible. It's sometimes difficult to get people to take getting a 3-year-old to school every day as a serious attendance issue. Maybe they're 3, and they get sick, and these things happen, but we do take it seriously, more so this year, because we saw from our data that makes a difference. We study all kinds of data, and the teachers there. We just met this week, as I bet everyone did in all the Waterford schools, to look at early assessment data from tests that the children took. How many letters do they know? How many sounds do they know? How many sight words can they read? And then we make plans for intervention for the children who are needy and to advance the children who are ready to advance. So ELL is second language. We did a test for that. We give extra help to those who need it. Literacy, I just mentioned. Related services is special needs. We're always meeting to plan and help those children. Grade levels, teams of teachers get together to plan special activities and improve instruction. SRVI is an intervention system to not let people fail before they get help, but give help along the way. And EVI is a study that we're part of. It's an early vocabulary intervention study through Your Eye and UConn that deliberately teaches fancy words, not so fancy, they're not important, but important vocabulary to the children, direct teaching of vocabulary. See if that has a good effect on reading. So far it has.
And the Friendship School, we are an award-winning building. If you ever do get a chance to visit, you'll see when you walk in, what I think is just fabulous about the school, just the building itself, is it's built for 3-year-olds, 4-year-olds, and 5-year-olds. Everything looks little to us, but it's just perfect size for them. The chairs are small, and you kind of sit down and you feel like you're going to fall on the floor, but it's made just for them. When you walk through the hallway, just the paint on the wall is calming. It's like calming colors, it's homey, and it makes them feel welcome to things. And we have a nautical theme. We have 4 hallways. They are Anchor, Boat, Compass, and Dolphin. And our library, that's the first picture in the corner. That's kind of dividing 2 hallways, and that's our library media center, and when you walk in there, the desk in there is like a dock, and all the chairs, little books on that. It's a very welcoming place.
A lot of thought when you design a building.
And some of our partners, like I mentioned, Learn, we are administered by Learn, New London and Waterford Board of Education, our FFO, and this is again for me. We have a Head Start program in our school that's available as well. School-based health center, community health center dental clinic, they come twice a year. Our many volunteers, our benefactors, our high school students that are right across the street. We have a wonderful class that comes over and does bulletin boards of lessons as well and learns from our teachers. And we have many foster grandparents that come in and help just in the classroom, read with children, and just help them do yourself.
And there you see a little fellow developing his literacy skills with his writing journal. Every day the 3-year-olds write in their writing journal. And you can guess what that writing looks like, but it's developmental, and a scribble to represent ideas is good at that age. And so we watch how the scribbles improve through the year. Scribbles turn to letters to words, and so on. We follow a curriculum that was designed by the state for preschool, and your curriculum for kindergarten, so we can do most things the same. And over the last few years, we've been meeting to share ideas to improve how we deliver our services to our children. We meet with Waterford teachers and with New London teachers, and we try to develop common approaches to things. And one of those was our report card that was just developed over the last 2 years. We used it for the first time last year. So all 3 communities have the same kindergarten report card now. And we use the same curriculum, as I just said, and many of the same curriculum resources. We found over the years that, well, when we first opened, we had curriculum resources, most of the books and things we used to teach the children, that we chose those that were consistent from pre-K to kindergarten. But then we got feedback from the schools that some of the kids were having a hard time with the language we used for handwriting, let's say, for example, or for forming letters. So we looked at maybe this was a good time to switch to a different teaching method, so that when our kids transfer back into your school, they would know, well, when you say the sky line, you mean this, and when you say the grass line, you mean that. So they didn't have to learn the new language of the new school in the transition. They would be ready to be successful there. So we take feedback from the schools, and we do our best to improve and make the transition easy for the children when they come back to the Waterford school. 3 years with us, some of them, and it's we're their home, we're their school. So it takes a little while for them to get used to being in this place and all the new rules and the new principal and everything. So we do have a development plan. We're always looking to get better at what we do. Every school does that. Every adult should be doing that. But we do it for our school, and our plan this year is we have a goal to improve student reading comprehension skills, and all our teachers have developed their student learning objectives around that. And you've been the pioneers in Waterford with the new teacher evaluation system, so we're teaching that language now this year, and we've got our SLOs and our IAPDs and everything in line to improve and to work hard for our children. So these are our goals in our development plan for the school. 2 academic goals, 1 family goal, and 1 social goal.
Like I mentioned before, all of our pre-K and kindergarten teachers are Connecticut State certified, and we also have all these other wonderful people on staff. We're lucky to have a reading specialist. We have 2.5 speech and language pathologists. We have 4 special education teachers, 2 that primarily focus on autism. We have a social worker, school psychologist, a therapist, an occupational therapist. All these wonderful people, all on site. So these children with special needs, everything that they need is under one roof. And you see those people every day, they're comfortable and used to it. And they build a nice, a relationship and they become friends and our school, local service. And these are some of our special events and field trips that we have at CSS. You see some of our wonderful pictures. We have Surrey Swords came one time. We have a program called RIP, where students get a free book. They go to Stop and Shop. They go to Scott's Farm. We have practice on solo. The RMNS chorus comes over and sings to us. We just had a wonderful heritage dinner 2 weeks ago. A wonderful turnout. And literacy night, we had also about 2 weeks ago for our kindergarten parents to learn about what their child will be learning in kindergarten for literacy and how they can help and support that.
We're busy at Francis School, and these field trips and special activities are a way for us to broaden the experiences that children have and to give them a context for later when they're learning to read, they have the understanding of what they're reading about. These are some of our field trips. That's part of our garden, our outdoor classroom. That's how I first became famous. Those on the inside know that story. When I left Waterford and went to the friendship school, nobody knew my name. And the school was all brand new. Nobody even knew there was any such thing as a principal. So I would walk down the hall and nobody would say, "There she is," which I didn't realize I missed, but I did miss as soon as I didn't hear it. And it wasn't until March when I got dressed like a cat in the hat and circulated through the school that I actually became known. But then I had to transfer that knowledge. I'm not really the cat in the hat. I'm just improving your principal. Some still remind me that I'm the cat in the hat. I still dress up every year on March 2nd to be across America Day in that same $30 costume. These are our school rules. Take care of yourself. Can anyone help me with that? Take care of each other and take care of our school rules. Those are our 3 school rules, and just about everything you can think of can fall under one of those 3 rules. We have started PBIS, which is Positive Behavioral Intervention and Support. It's kind of a national trend to have a uniform way of looking at behaviors in a school and to support positive statements and positive behaviors. So it's all about catching the kids being good, recognizing the good behaviors. But we have developed a series of little videos, and I thought I'd show you one if I can figure out which button to push on this. Just click in the middle of the cafeteria rules. I have forward and back, but I don't have blue cursor. There, just click right there. Thank you. Oops. Did you get it? Thank you, Craig. This is what our cafeteria looks like, family style. Take care of yourself. Take care of our school. Doesn't look like that every day. That's our goal, and it was an actual building. So we have about 10 of these videos that the teachers use to teach the children the behaviors that they expect. And when we send the children back to you, we try to make that a smooth transition. You've been very welcome to our families at the elementary schools with orientation events. Our children are always invited to those, and it helps, I think, to see the school before you actually go there for your children and for the parents, and to get to know the layout of the school. Records all go back to the school so that the history of the child travels with the child, and we continue to share professional development and professional ideas with professional staff at the elementary school. Well, we would love for you to come and see the school anytime. Many of you have been there. Many of you are doing a lot. But it is a beautiful building and a beautiful environment for your youngest citizens. And I think they thrive there. there's more than just academic development going on there. There's social, and physical, and artistic. All that's important because we're making citizens good people.
Thank
This
you.
is our contact info. You can reach us by calling or by emailing. And these are some pictures, just like 3 or 4 pictures that you would enjoy. That's literacy, French school, Bradford book, garden. Nice day, and Alice, who are out of it today. Very good. So thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kathy. Before you step away, are there any questions from the board for Kathy or Tricia? I may just say thank you very much for the very comprehensive overview. I know several board members have been asking, and we're delighted, and thank you to Jerry for the invitation, so we're pleased to have heard your report tonight. And I can vouch and tell you everything they've said is true. I've been there, and I think this is a real credit to this town to have an urban, suburban magnet school that serves the children that it does. And I think when the state has talked about closing the achievement gap and doing something like this, it would be nice if some of the other towns in urban, suburban areas throughout the state followed your lead. So thank you very much. And I know Jody and I were in there, I think the second or third day after the school opened with 500 children, and it was so organized and orderly. You cannot believe. They do a fabulous job over there, and they're not even complaining about their budget, but they do tremendous work on a very tight budget. So thank you very much. Thank you.
Look how well these little guys
Oh,
work
and
tonight. You guys.
thank you. Thank you to all the parents and the children especially for coming out tonight. It's wonderful. Thank you so much. You feel free to...
So you don't have to stay. So you guys don't
Right.
have to
We were going to tell you the same thing. You're more than welcome, but feel free to get up if you'd like. Okay.
Can I make just one comment?
Yes, go ahead.
It's not a question for you, Kat, so you can go ahead and leave if you want. But I just think it's very ironic today that we had the presentation about the exchange program with China, and that we do the collaboration that we've had with the Friendship School. And I think I had mentioned a couple, it may have been in the workshop we had over the summer time, because I can't remember how many meetings I've missed. When we talked about, I've talked about languages, and if we can have this kind of collaboration with the Friendship School, maybe it's something we can look at in the future to develop foreign languages with our students at the high school level. And we can do something with London, East Line, Oslo, whatever, and work some kind of collaboration with increasing our foreign languages.
Just a second on that. Thank you very much. Thank you, Dr. Helen. Thank you. Okay, that brings us to our next presentation, and this is naturally a bittersweet moment. We will be saying goodbye to 2 of our long-standing Board of Education members who have both dedicated many, many years of service, loyalty to the Board of Education, and we received a nice letter, all of us, from Tim, and in that letter saying, and I'd like to reiterate that this board works so well together, and we've had complete cooperation in a very nonpartisan manner, and we thank both John and Tim for that, and we will surely miss you, but you know the time that this board meets, so we're not going to say a complete adieu. We're going to ask you to come back and say hello from now and then, but if you'd like to come forward, the board would like to recognize you each with a plaque. So, want to come forward together? Jerry, come.
Sure. Goodness, what a run already.
Yeah, that was
We're keeping on. The Board of Education hereby recognizes John Taglianetti for his many years of dedicated service from 2009 to 2013, and then in 2003 to 2007, so 8 full years of service.
Thank you very
Thank you,
much.
John. You're welcome. John has been doing a lot of traveling and is retired, so I'm sure Helen will be pleased, and we're going to hope to hear from your nice travels to Europe.
You got it.
The Waterford Board of Education hereby recognizes Tim Egan for his many years of dedicated service, November 2005 to November 2013. Tim, it's been an honor and a pleasure to work with you. Thank you. And I see Sharon
Thank you
somewhere.
so much.
Hello, Sharon. Thank you. We're going to miss you. Thank you very much. I would give a recess, but I keep hearing time.
That was the 20-minute warning.
So we'll continue.
Sorry about that.
But thank you both very much. That takes us right to our consent agenda. Are there any comments, questions concerning the consent agenda?
Make a motion to accept.
Thank you, Kevin. Is there a second? Any discussion? No? All those in favor? Anyone opposed? That motion carries. Takes us right to reading of correspondence received. Anyone with correspondence? I do. I have I did receive a letter that our board will be receiving a first level board recognition award from CAVE at the conference. That correspondence, and I have a number of pieces of correspondence from CAVE, but Steph, if you'd like to do the report on, I'll hold that and we'll talk about it when we get to the report on CAVE, okay? So I won't go through all that correspondence. So that would be it. That can take us right to your report, Jerry.
Yeah, I have a brief report tonight. I'd just like to highlight I'd like to highlight the student artwork from Quaker Hill, and you'll get a real chuckle as you move around at the end of the meeting to take a look. But you have some first grade artwork over there, which really talks about why they're so special. Over here, one green apple, and you can see there is one green apple, and relates to a story, and you can take a look at some of the students' writing. You have some I Am poems, as well as some student artwork on display, really of all ages. So thank you very much to the Quaker Hill students for showing off their talent here at the board conference room. In front of you, you have the October 1st enrollment. I gave you a brief update on that. At our September meeting, you can see very slight changes. Our class sizes are maintaining within the range that we hoped they would be, with an increase really in enrollment over what we had projected for this year. I'm also going to distribute to you a copy of the professional development plan for both our paraprofessionals and our certified staff that will be held on November 5th, and really kudos to the staff and their great planning for that work on that day. Also wanted to let you know of a partnership that we have with the Electric Boat Management Association. This has been organized through Eric Cushman. We have 15 volunteers who reside here in Waterford who are available to provide tutorial services to our students both in the middle school and the high school. And also, I just wanted to call to your attention that our next meeting is scheduled for November 19th, and that's at 7 p.m. And I learned from our first selectman that he's scheduling a swearing-in ceremony for Board of Ed, Board of Finance, other town boards at the same time on the same date. So I think in order for any new members who are elected to the Board of Education, it would be wise for us maybe to move our meeting to 7:30 that night so that all of us can attend and welcome in the newly elected officials in town. So I just wanted to call that to everyone's attention. And that's all I have to report tonight.
Okay, with the board, the consensus, I think it would be, although we don't have it down, we can take a general consensus at the 7:30 to move from the 7 to 7:30 for that purpose. Is there a complete consensus?
Comfortable with that?
Okay, thank you.
And we'll notify the clerk.
Please, we give a notice.
John, you okay with that?
Yes, they'll be fine.
They were fine.
Thank you. So 7:30, and we'll get that notice out. Thank you, Jerry. Is there anything else?
That's all I
Okay.
have.
Under committee reports, Who wants to go? Jody, we're going?
I like the red side too, so this is going to be quick. We didn't have a youth service bureau meeting yet this month, but I just wanted everybody to be aware of the Thanksgiving and holiday programs that they have planned. So I have a flyer. I'm going to pass this around. They're continuing with the Loop, the after-school program for middle school children, and that's going very well. And I'm happy that's a success. I have a school building committee report. What I did was I just made a copy of our October, the project commentary for October, so you can look it over at your leisure while you're watching the game, maybe.
And you probably also noticed how nicely the grass and the plantings
Oh,
have
yeah.
come in. It's really looking spectacular.
It does.
And also, I just wanted the board to know, because I know people have been talking in town about the funding. Jerry and Craig and Jay let us know at the last meeting that we're going to receive about $160,000 energy credit, and then we're receiving $165,000 back for combined laws. And we had a balance of $172,491.58. So we have a total of a little over $250,000 of $325,000 still in our budget. So we are not over
We're still
budget.
afloat.
That's right. That's right. But it's been a lot of hard work and diligence on Jerry, Craig, and Jay's part, and also the school building committee. The school building committee has some really nice members in there. They're very dedicated. We had a parents liaison council meeting, and we had a great group of parents again this year. We were discussing on what our major townwide project might be this year. We haven't decided on anything yet. But we did talk about communication, which is very important. And they spoke about getting more communication out to the parents and getting the parents more involved. And they were going to do some, are you going to do that? Do you want to explain to them what we might do when they go in November for the parent-teacher conferences? Did you decide to do that?
We haven't finished our planning on that.
Well, it's a work in progress.
Okay.
All right. And I think that's it for me.
Thank you, Jody. Thanks. Kevin, did you want to give a quick report?
Well, I'm not a Red Sox fan, so I have 15 Red Sox.
Oh, no!
I move we table this report.
I'll second it.
In serious, I just highlighted a couple that I went through. Because I do have to vote on these, and if there's any questions on any of these, I thought maybe I should ask. One of them has to deal with DCF funding for special ed students in the local school district. That basically is asking the legislature to provide the DCF and families to pay a percentage of costs. I think that would be something we would be interested in.
It's about time we're going to do that.
Wouldn't that be nice? I thought you'd like that. So I would assume you'll...
It's one of their resolutions, yeah.
The state has, and I talked to Pat about this a little bit before because I wasn't quite sure on all this. State Department of Education has defined excused absences, allows 9 absences based on a parent note. So, and I think they've restricted more. Is that what you were telling me? They've restricted more on what they call a excused absence now. So what Kay was asking to do is to let the legislative, let the local school boards make that decision, and I think that's something we would be interested in also. One that was tabled by the General Assembly, I'm rushing through this, so. General Assembly tabled a bill last year to reduce drug-free zones from 1,500 feet to 300 feet, and they tabled that. That distance is always as the crow flies. I remember that from when I had moved my liquor store from where it was over to my Stop and Shop. So it doesn't actually go by the street. So 300 feet would be like from Gulf Ferry Road to Great Neck Road. 1,500 feet puts it from the high school property past the old driving dip, basically, as a crow flies. So that's a pretty large area to cover. So what they're doing is they want to keep it the same. I think it's just something to keep an eye on. But I would see if we moved it down to 1,000 feet, that would make sense also. And the last resolution that they have is that they're recommending that all boards of education consider rescheduling meetings that fall on World Series or NCAA
Watch it. I think there's one they're going to add to put on the board, the director. They want to add to the the board of directors, the technical school, which I think was a good move. I think they're going to add that to the resolution. But no, I don't think this board has any problem with any of those resolutions, so please, you'll attend the assembly, the delegate assembly. Thank you. Okay. That can move us. Any other reports? I'll just go very quickly. The MetroPass did have a meeting, and they're looking at their funding, and perhaps they'll go back to offering grants to the schools next year. And then Jim actually gave me a note tonight on the foundation, but I'll give you a quick synopsis. The Waterford Education Foundation has its new officers. Carl Donatello is the president. Lindsay Savona, I believe, is vice president. And the foundation is looking forward to celebrating its 10th anniversary next October, so plans will be underway there. And certainly, if you'll relay back, Jim, the Board of Education is very appreciative of all the work that the Education Foundation does. Thank you very much. And Jim serves as our liaison to the foundation. Thank you. That takes us right to our new business, discussion and possible action naming the school facility for community member. If I may just let the board know that, as you recall, last month we did our new policy, which allowed us to move on looking to possibly name school facilities, but we also want to do our due diligence and follow our policy, so the board is not quite prepared tonight to act on this. So I would request that we have a motion to table until the initial work is done following policy. So moved. Thank you, Ann. Second by David. Any discussion? Well, actually, you can't debate at table. So we'll move right to a vote. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Fine. Sorry, Jody. We tabled it.
I'm opposed.
Okay. That takes us right to the budget assumptions for 2015.
So you have in your packet a draft of the assumptions that we will build a budget on and bring to you in early January for a series of workshops. And so just to quickly highlight, we're working on a primary assumption that our job is really to be very cost effective and efficient. At the same time, we want to maintain the quality and enhance our programming. So you can see the areas that we're targeting still around health benefits, transportation, and other partnerships with nearby school systems. The other thing that you see here is maintaining a reasonable class size so that we have high quality instruction. We've identified the areas for curriculum and professional development renewal, continuing to maintain the use of technology as a key instructional tool, as well as preparing for mandated testing that will occur in the spring of 2015. We're obligated to address all federal and state mandates. We're looking at assuming that we'll have a 70% reimbursement for excess costs in regards to special education costs. We have beautiful facilities, and it's important that we have a preventative maintenance program as well as to keep our eye on school safety. We also have a unique situation here with our Waterford Country School and our shelters. And then being mindful of our contractual obligations and making sure that our budget is needs-based and that we account for any revenue on any state and federal grant that we receive. So these are the items that will drive the budget that the administrative team develops to bring forward to the board for discussion in January.
Right, and as you pointed out, many of these we are mandated and they're necessary for us to move on that. We don't have any idea at this point where we're going to be with all of the grant
We don't.
sources, but this definitely will drive the budget. So, thank you, Kevin. Second by Jody. Any discussion? Hearing none, we can vote on this. All those in favor? Anyone opposed? Okay.
This is also, thank you. This is also an opportunity for us to listen to the board around any particular priorities. We did have this conversation during our summer retreat, and, we tried to reflect those in the budget assumptions so that we're not looking at going backward, we're looking at going forward, which really stays with the theme that we have for the year. We're certainly open to any suggestions that you have that you want the administrative team to focus on.
Just going along, because we have the new schools and we put a lot of effort behind that, and I would like to be sure that in the budget that and I know we have it in as one of our goals, but as I look through this, there are two areas that would be to provide enough for maintenance of the facilities to be sure that we keep them up. And then the second thing was with all that we're asking of our teachers with professional development, that we really look. I noticed in the curriculum development and professional development to be sure that we I did notice the guidelines. I did not go back to check, but I think they were modest. But we need to, I think this board traditionally in the past has tried to really keep an eye on the class size as well. So I think that may be another area as we go through it that we look. Anyone else? John, did you?
No. You also have in your packet, thank you for that, you also have in your packet a tentative budget timeline. So we're looking to deliver a budget to the board right after the new year on January 3rd to distribute the budget. We have 2 consecutive Thursdays established for workshops. The 23rd, there's a typo here, that would not be a budget meeting, that would actually be a snow date in case either of those workshops are snowed out, and then the 30th would be the actual Board of Education meeting around the budget. Okay, so we're built in a snow day, and I think we need to.
I think also excellent planning would be extra special meetings, and I think we put an extra one in there in the event that we do need for another one.
So if it doesn't snow and we're still working, we have time. Okay.
I think it's really good. Thank you.
And then the next item that you have in your packet, and I apologize, I didn't get to you the summary sheet in the Friday packet, and I noticed that, so I emailed it out to you. You have the highlights of the changes. And as I noted in my communication, there was just a handful of revisions. And basically, they were all due to new legislation that took effect July 1st. And of course, as a board, you needed to pass a motion back by June related to the evaluation plan. So every school district in the state is doing what we're doing this evening. And it also makes some changes in the language. So we have opted to not participate in the Connecticut Mastery Test or the PAP testing this year with the exception of science, because that is a mandate, and our students will participate grades 3 through 8 and 11 in piloting of the SBAC, so we'll give them the opportunity to get an experience using technology and taking the new test that will actually be in place in 2015. So the revisions that you see in this plan need to occur due to those issues around our choice with testing and new state legislation. So they're minor and simple, but we do need to have the board review and then take action on both plans.
Okay, so we'll probably, I'd like to take a vote on each one separately. But Jody, did you have a question?
I just have a question about just verbiage. The high school students, in order to graduate, they needed to pass the CAP testing. So are we going to change the requirements now that they have to pass the new test?
we had a policy subcommittee meeting tonight, and I passed out to the subcommittee a numerous list of policies that we're going to be taking action in, and that is one of those that we have to sort of take action in.
Okay, so how does that, will that affect any of the students at the high school this year? They normally take that sophomore year, right?
So they normally take it sophomore year, and then they would normally do any remediation junior year, senior year if they needed be. So I don't think there's a urgent sense for this coming year, but it is on our list because that is a change that we'll have to address.
Thank you.
Just, before we vote, I just would like to at least recognize the state, in this regard, that they at least let the district have to choose which way they want to go.
Oh, how nice of
That
them.
was one positive that was in that just so the board's clear on it, that the piece of the evaluation, the testing that will come out, this will not be part of, it will not be included in that piece in evaluation this year. That's just, I wanted to make that clear. Okay. And these are changes, and we really did give a thorough look at this in the board back in June. So,
I have a suggestion for you to consider. I would expect that these plans are probably going to evolve over time.
Yeah.
And the suggestion is that at the beginning of each one of these plans, that you keep track of the revisions. Just a change history page, so that the rationale, as you have in your memos, is embedded in this document. So it makes it very easy for someone, whenever down the road, to open this up and say, okay, we started with the basic document, then we changed it for these reasons, and how much of the changes, as you have in your errata sheet here, embedded that is up to you, but at least provide why it was changed, some rationale, but so that you got the history.
Thank you, John.
Here, rather than having to go and put together or go find the memos.
we can get a history of the board plan. Thank you. Thank you, John. Any other comments? I'll take back. We can actually vote on both. If you don't mind, I can put the teacher and the administrator evaluation plans together. So as we vote, I don't think we're going to have to do it.
There's a motion to approve the revision to the teacher and administrator evaluation plans as presented and/or amended.
Thank you.
Second.
Second, I Tim. There's no further discussion. We can move to vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Those against, carried. Thank you. Takes us to our first reading of the Series 1000 Community Relations. No action is needed, as you know, and basically, let Mr. Powers speak, but I think basically this is just moving from the policy to regulations. It was a shift.
Yes.
We're not excluding anything that we have in the relation. But would you like to make a comment?
Sure. So Kathleen is correct in the sense that our policy generally are the overarching broad statements for the direction and the regulations of the exact procedures. And so we did move a lot of the exact procedures to the regulation piece. We did set the amount that principals would have to get approval from the superintendent at the $1,000 mark. We also noted on the record keeping for funds that at the end of an activity, a final report showing the amount of money raised and the purpose of those funds would be there, which just enhances our record keeping system. And then we made minor changes to the approval process. So those are all for your consideration.
Thank you very much, Mr. Powers. And again, yes.
Before I make this motion, let me explain. We typically have a first reading, and then the next board meeting is the approval of it. And given that there will be new board members next time, and shouldn't we table this for the first reading for the next board meeting so that all of the new board members and participants can have it as a first reading?
It's really, I certainly will entertain that suggestion, but if I may just tell you that there's nothing really of essence that I see that has changed from the old policy, except that we moved
out of the policy into the regulation, the piece, we didn't really do anything substantive. So I don't think the new board, but I understand what you're saying, it's like kind of in between one or the other. So we could, but then we'd be doing another first reading.
Well, then let me make the motion that this be taken.
Okay.
First reading
There doesn't need to
until
need
the
to be a
next board
motion.
meeting.
All right, that's
Somebody
fine
wants
with
to second
me.
vote,
I certainly have no objection. I don't think this is tendering quick action right now. So if you prefer that, and that's all right with the board, we can table it. Are you making that
I
motion?
made that motion.
All right, I need a second. Second, there is no debate on the table, so all those in favor may say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? It's tabled until the next meeting. I have no problem with that. Now, before, we will move in a moment into executive session, but I'm going to ask just for, and I'm going to go very fast, just a little personal privilege. I would just like to thank everyone again for this board, the work that the board, but particularly thank our administrators and for coming out to every board meeting that I can remember. No matter what's going on, you're always here. And since it is Principal Appreciation Month, I would just like from the Board of Education to offer you, each one of you, a rose, and then you can have the orange roses. The ladies can take home the pink roses. And these are for you too, just from the Board of Education, just to say thank you to you for all that you do for us all the time.
Very nice.
So, if you'd like to share these, thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Very nice.
So with that now, we will go into executive session. We'll need a motion to go into executive session and to join Craig for a collective bargaining. Second. Second by Dan, I think. All those in favor? Aye. We're in executive session. Thank you all for coming out. Thank you, Dan.